Skyrim is Bethesda's fifth entry into the high fantasy series The Elder Scrolls. Released to massive commercial success, it has come to define the open world gaming experience, and as such is the game I have chosen to use to explore the medium of video games.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Skyrim is an open world RPG. There is a main storyline, as well as a world that is vibrant and alive, full of side quests and misadventures. A player can spend countless hours seeing everything the game has to offer. I argue that the medium of video games allows one more control than other mediums, and with that control comes a more embodied experience of a fictional world. Without relying too heavily on cliché, a successful video game is often said to make a player really feel like a certain character. In the case of Skyrim, the player is the Dragonborn, effectively a god amongst the people of Skyrim.
Who are you?
The player's avatar is fully customizable. There follows a brief tutorial of the game controls by way of an escape sequence, and then the player is released out into the world. The player is provided with a location to travel to in order to advance the game's storyline.
My sister, Gerda, runs the mill in Riverwoods, just up the road. I'm sure she'd help you out.
However, once given this prompt, they are cut loose from any tethers and are now free to explore. This point at which control of the game is given entirely to the player is the key point of my argument. It is the point at which a video game becomes a completely unique medium. What sets video games apart is the control, this control allowing for a more embodied experience of a piece. Skyrim is an example of near total control, and whilst not all video games have or require this level of control, they all have some. From things as simple as moving the white line in Pong or the sideways movement and jumping in Mario, to being a soldier in the trenches, a race car driver, or a cowboy exploring the American Wild West, the player has been handed a role within a fictional world. The one common thread in these wildly varying examples is that the player has become an active participant in the fiction they are consuming. They can make choices and perform actions when and if they would like to, and the game reacts to those choices accordingly. So what does it mean to have control in a video game? To quote Timothy Crick, the fundamental aspect that allows a video game player agency in a virtual world is, of course, the control device, affording the player the opportunity to act directly on and in that world. Even the most immersive experiences in other mediums are lacking in this one element. If the screen serves as a barrier between the real world and the fictional world, the controller provides a bridge between the two. Movement and use of this control becomes more fluid as a player gets used to playing more video games, and eventually becomes a subconscious act. Quote Brandon Keogh, if video games are an embodied experience that are meaningful through the player's perception and embodiment of them as lived experiences across worlds, then they require a sort of embodied literacy, where the player learns how to perceive and embody the video game. The controller, having become a subconscious method of interaction, allows the player to control an avatar, a presence or being in the fictional world, making decisions and actions through them without considering the real world. Whether that decision is to move up and down, or which side of a fantastically complex civil war to join, it is through this avatar that the player has their experiences of the medium. The interaction they have with the game world is fed through this avatar. It is not simply a following of a protagonist as in a film, the player is the protagonist. They exist within a world, and it is this existence that allows an embodied experience to take place. The experiences are experienced, not simply seen. As previously mentioned, the player's avatar in Skyrim is fully customizable. This allows a player to create a physical representation of a character they wish to embody. Obviously, all video games do not have this customizability, and the player will play as pre-written and created avatars. I argued that the level of writing does not intrude upon the player's embodied experience of the world they are experiencing. What matters is that the player has control. Once handed the controls, even the most scripted game can still be changed and interacted with by a player, however they choose within the game's constraints. If the player wishes to miss in Pong, they can, and that is where the difference lies. Being in control of an object represented within a space puts the player into that space, and once in that space, truly embodied experiences can occur. Skyrim was a foundational aspect of my childhood, the first game to get me truly hooked to gaming. I invested so many hours into this game that to this day, 9 years since I first played it, hearing the soundtrack alone pulls me to a completely different world, one full of excitement and adventure, mysteries to be solved and places to explore. The fond memories I have are not of playing a game, they are of experiencing a world out with my own. A kind of control that allowed me to be truly free and get lost somewhere I felt I was truly a part of, that I existed in.